So, this week we are going to discuss about the HANA DB administration part. So, HANA database. So, HANA. So, everybody knows HANA is the database administration. HANA is the DB. So, database which will store the data which are coming from applications. Applications in the sense like if you see here, this is the our presentation layer. So this is the our application layer. So this is our database layer, right? This is our database layer. This is our database. So here user will do the transaction in the application side. So from application to DB, the data will be stored here, right? So this part we discussed. This is the GUI. This is the SAP, right? This is the SAP. So this is the database, right? So this is the SAP, this is the database. So DB, which will store the data, which will store the application data, which are coming from application or third-party applications. Anything that is called the applications, which will come from the applications, right? Which will store the database. So this part we are discussing now. Okay, DB administration part we are discussing now. So while discussing the database, so first of all, we will list out the how many databases are there in the market here as of now. So we have SQL Server, Oracle, so DB2, right? MaxDB and Sybase and HANA database. So these are the databases are there which will support SAP will support all these databases. SAP will support all these databases. SAP will support this database. So we have all these databases are there, right? So SQL Server is like Microsoft database, right? Microsoft SQL Server means it's like Microsoft. Microsoft released this database, right? Initially. And this is the Oracle company, IBM DB2. So this is the SAP only. This is also SAP only. But even though SAP released the one more database that is called the HANA database. So why it is so important nowadays? Why everyone they are using the HANA database? Why they are everyone they are using the HANA database? So why? What is the reason here? So why means HANA has one different concept. So compared to the other databases, HANA has one different concept here. HANA has one different concept here. So what is that concept here? So why all nowadays all customers are so they're migrating their databases in case of already in the existing databases. So our new customers they are directly going to the HANA database. Why? What is the reason here? So HANA database, there is a special feature that is called it will store the data in memory, instead of storing the data so in the disk storage, it will storing the data in memory. So that is the reason HANA, HANA as this is the one of the important feature. And also it has only columns. HANA, it has only columns. So it is only in-memory database. It has only columns and columnar store tables only, not the row stores. So data stored into the database level and table level in the column level, not the row level. So not the column level only it will store the data, right? And also it's like in memory, not the disk storage. Disk storage means so normally if the other databases, if I take the concept of the other databases, so suppose other databases, the concept is like so other databases, so CPU and memory and disk storage, right? So this is the so navigation. This is the CPU, right? CPU and memory and disk, right? Disk storage. So whenever see the data comes to the CPU, whenever if you want to do the any request, whenever if you want to do the any request, suppose you want to give any request here, so you want to give the any request here. So here what we will do here, first of all, it will check, it will check the it will check the data CPU. The CPU will take the request here. CPU will take the request. Then CPU to main memory. Then main memory to it will go to the disk storage. In the disk level, it will search. In the disk level, it will search whether the data exists or not. It will search in the disk level. Suppose I am going to this PC. Just I want to one employee data. 1, 2, 3, 4 employee data I need. If I double click it, then in the disk level, see how it is searching here. This searching, this searching. Just for example, I'm showing here. See here, how it is searching here. So it is taking so hell lot of time, right? See here, it is taking a lot of time to get the data from the database level. So database level, disk level, example. So it is taking some lot of time it is taking here, right? Some lot of time it is taking from the here. So if why? Because here the data is storing into the database here disk storage level. So the request go to the here, then here, then here, it will come to the here it will search the data. Then as soon as data got it, then it will go to the here, then it will go to the here, then it will give the response back to the user. Why? Because user is available here, right? So this is the way the current concept up to previous concept. These are the concepts of the so here, right? All these concepts are here like this one, right? So now when it comes to the HANA, they have changed this model. This model they have changed it here. So this model they have changed it and they have CPU concept, they have CPU concept only, and main memory concept, they have the main memory concept only. And instead of this disk, they have changed this disk layout to the here. So they have changed this disk layout to the here, which means so request go to the CPU only, CPU only, and this is the main memory means RAM memory. And in the RAM memory itself, you have the data is storing into the RAM memory itself, not in the file system layout level. In the RAM memory itself, the data is getting into the here. RAM memory itself, the data is getting here. So here in the columnar format, the data is storing into the RAM itself. So that is the reason it's a very fast compared to the database. It's a very fast. So in the HANA databases, it will go to the CPU, then memory. In the memory itself, you have the data. So immediately it will pick up the data, then will give the response back to the user. So which means here two advantages. We are saving the this time. This is going to the disk level, storing the disk level and giving back to the here. These two responses we are saving. So means we are minimizing the timelines here, right? The request timelines we are minimizing. And also one more advantage here for accessing the data from main memory is 1 lakh times faster than disk. 1 lakh times faster than disk. So that is the reason if the data is main memory, so 1 lakh times faster than disk, we can access it, right? 1 lakh times faster than we can access it. That is the reason SAP innovated this new feature. So they have introduced in the HANA database side. So that is the reason nowadays, so every customer or everyone, they are mainly looking for the speed of the data retrieval speed and everything. They are looking for the main this one. So that is the reason. So so it's a very fast. It is a very speed for accessing the data from the database level. It's a very speed of very speed. So that is the reason. So we have HANA database and everyone they are implementing the HANA database here, right? This is the one of the good example. So retrieval the data from the disk may take time, but here other database like this. So SQL Server, Oracle, DB to other databases will store the data in the disk format level. Disk level it will store the data. So taking the going to the disk and searching here and giving the response, it may take some longer time. So but the data is in the main memory itself. So it will go to the immediately it will pick up the data and give the response back to the user, right? Give the response back to the user. That's why so storing the data in main memory is faster than disk. So that is the reason for HANA, if you are implementing the HANA, you need huge RAM is required here. So not the small ROMs, not the 5 GB, 6 GB, 8 GB. So minimum 64, 128 GB RAMs are required for the HANA DB administration part. 128 GB DRAMs are required for the HANA DB administration part. To install the HANA, you require this one. And also here in HANA, not only in memory, not only columnar format, it's like that. So HANA, there are the parallel threading, linear search method. Linear, it will use the linear search method to get the speed. And also it will initiate the parallel threads. It will initiate the parallel threads to pick up the data, to retrieve the data from the database level, right? And also compression mechanism. It has only compression mechanism, and the data will be compressed into compressed means if any folder is there, normally we will do the zip, right? Zip means the space will be reduced. Same as like here. So the data will be compressed. When the data coming to the main memory, the data will be in the compressed format so that the memory usage also will be reduced here, right? Parallel threads, compression methods, linear search mechanisms, and also columnar, column store tables. It has only columns. It has only columns only, not the rows. All business data stores into the columns tables. That's why HANA is one of the in-memory database, column-oriented columnar database. This is the one of the first database which will store the data into columnar level. So it will store the data into the columnar level. So if the data is in the column store level, so immediately the retrieval will be very simple. It will be very fast. The data retrieval will be very fast. That is the reason. So retrieving the data from the column store level is the very fast here. Okay. Linear search method, parallel mechanism, compression method, and a column store level. It's a very fast, right? For retrieving the data is the very fast here. Okay. So then what we required here to install the HANA and to install the HANA are, so what is required here? So what is required here? So there are the separate hardware settings to install the HANA database. Why? Because it's the DB. If you install the one-time database in the next 5 years, there should not be any issue in the database level, right? That is the reason what we required to install the HANA database. What we required here to install the HANA database. So to install the HANA database, we have to carefully plan the software requirements and hardware requirements. Software anyhow we will download from the service marketplace. What about the HANA hardware requirement? HANA HW requirement, HANA hardware requirement. So these hardware requirements are very important here. These hardware requirements are very important to everything. Why? Because here in the hardware requirements, so here we should learn about the, so how much space is required, how much RAM is required. So all these things here. The first foremost thing, so HANA hardware requirement, the OS platform, right? OS is a very important here. Then after the OS, the RAM. Then once you get the RAM, you will get the how many number of CPUs. Then file systems, how many number of file systems you required, right? So the OS, RAM, CPU, file systems, and in the file systems and space, how much space you required for the each and every file systems also. So this information you required, right? Network, what is the network bandwidth level and everything for here. So all these things we should be required here. All these things we should be required to install the HANA database. So what is the OS version here? What is the OS? What are the OS it will support here? Why? Because HANA is required the more RAM size here. So it won't support in the Windows platform here. It won't support Windows platform here. Here we need the, so OS is called the Linux operating systems are required here. Linux operating systems are required here. So Linux means we have SUSE Linux and Red Hat Linux. Red Hat Linux. Red Hat Linux or so IBM 64-bit versions. So otherwise IBM, so power machines are required. It's a 128-bit IBM power machine, which means it's 128-bit storage. 128. So normally rare cases the people will use the IBM Power 8 machines, but normal OS is either the SUSE Linux or Red Hat Linux you required. And also you need the certified hardware vendors only. Suppose if you want to take installing, the certified hardware vendors. Certified hardware vendors means you have to procure the hardware from the certified hardware vendors only. Suppose example HP, so Lenovo and Fujitsu. These are the certified hardware vendors. Like that, we have the many hardware vendors are there. Suppose if you go and here, if you go and here, just you can type it like certified hardware vendor, something like that. So for HANA, certified hardware vendors. To install the HANA, these are the certified hardware vendors. You should be procure the your hardwares, RAMs, CPU, motherboards, all these cores and everything. You have to procure from them. So that's why you will call it as the certified hardware vendors here. Certified hardware vendors here. So Dell, right? Dell, Dell hardware vendors, and also see here how many are there here. Many hardware vendors are there. So list the solutions. Certified hardware vendors. If you just search it out here, you can see EMC, Google, IBM Cloud, NEC, Lenovo, Hitachi, and so you can see so these are the certified hardware vendors. Certified hardware vendors where we have to install our HANA database. So Azure, Cisco systems, all this what they are providing the hardware vendors. So hardware vendors. So Intel as well CPUs are recommended. As well CPUs are later CPUs are recommended. The CPUs wise, if you CPU name convention, Intel Haswell CPUs are later. So the CPUs are very recommended here. The memory sizes is looks like. So how much you want to purchase, you can purchase the memory also. So certified hardware vendors you are required for the so here, right? So that is the certified hardware vendors here you required for the to Intel. Intel also normally everyone use the Intel hardwares, right? So that is the certified hardware vendors here. So RAM, how much RAM we required? Then how to calculate the RAM size here? OS means we know how much what is the OS and everything here. So suppose if I talk about the OS versions here, so here SUSE Linux version is OS version is 15 currently, 15 SP03. So before that, we have the SP02, right? Then SP01. So if you're installing the latest version of the HANA, you need to take care of the latest version of the SUSE Linux version. You have to install it. SUSE Linux version, you have to install it here. That is the SUSE Linux version here. Then what is the version for the your Red Hat Linux? Red Hat Linux, RHCL, Red Hat Linux. So RHCL, we will call it as the RHCL. Otherwise, this is also there is a one naming convention. SLES slash. This is called the RHEL, Red Hat Linux Enterprise Limited. This is the SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. This is the RHEL. So here RHEL we have 11 is there. I think recently they have released. Then 10 series is there. Then RHCL 9 is there. Then RHCL 8 also is there. So versions, I'm telling about the versions here. So please remember the versions. Tomorrow they may ask you questions on what is the versions of the your HANA data OS version. In which OS version you have installed. You will simply say like SUSE Linux. What is the SUSE Linux version? Then you have to at least tell like 15, something like that you have to tell. So otherwise, if you remember fully 1503, 02, 01, like that, you have to clearly inform them, right? So this is the OS version you required. Why? Because you don't need to install it, but especially you should remember the versions when you are working on the one maybe when you are working on your mobile phone, you are working, right? So definitely you need to know what is the Android version of your mobile phone. So all these things you should know, right? So and also same here also you are working on the operating systems. You are going to install it. Installation part is ours, right? ANA installations, but the OS version where you are going to install it, all these things you should be required. Sometimes you are using the latest version, your OS is in the old version, then HANA will give the trouble. HANA will give the trouble here. So that is the reason the OS version should be matched it as per the SAP architecture. The OS version should be matched here. So there are certified hardware vendors. We have to procure the hardware here. Then how to calculate the RAM size here? So RAM size calculations we can do in the two ways, multiple ways we can perform it here, RAM size calculations. So why? Because RAM size calculation is the very important here, the sizing calculation. So here we can use the fix sizer tool. Fix sizer tool for the for calculating the RAM, and also the t-shirt sizing method. T-shirt sizing method. Fix sizer tool and the t-shirt sizing method we have to use it. One is the fix sizer tool and the t-shirt sizing method we have to use it in the RAM side. We have to use it this one. Fix sizer tool and also t-shirt sizing method we have to use it this one, right? This is the certified RAM. This is the required here. So RAM's fix sizer tool. Why? Because how much RAM we have to purchase? That is the main question for here. So is the greenfield implementation. So that we can take it from here. It is the brownfield implementation. We can run the reports in the brownfield implementation. We have to run the report from. So we have to run the report in the existing system. So here there is the two types of implementation methods here. One is the greenfield. One is the greenfield. We will call it as the greenfield implementation. So which means fresh installation. Second one is the greenfield and brownfield, which is called the migrations. It is called the migrations. Suppose you have already database is there, you want to migrate to the HANA database. So you need to run the one report, HDB underscore sizing report, then you will get the how much RAM you required. Greenfield means the fresh installation. Fresh installation. You are doing that one. There is no data. In that case, you can just calculate the how much RAM is required. Maybe we can use the quick sizer tool. So quick sizer tool. So quick sizer tool is the one of the SAP web-based tool. This is the SAP Fixsizer tool is the one of the web-based tool here. In this tool, we can calculate and estimate the your server, CPU, memory, IO resources, everything throughput. We can do that one based upon the business requirement. We can estimate the technical requirement of the CPU, memory, disk, all these things we can do that one. That is called the Fixsizer tool. Fixsizer tool here. Fixsizer tool is the one of the web-based tool. This is the link for the Fixsizer tool here. So here we need to calculate the CPU, memory, CPU, disk, IO, network, all these things will come under the as part of this sizing here. So one is the user-based tailing. So we have to One is the user-based tiling. User-based means how many users are there. Based on that, we can get the quotation easily. We can estimate the rough estimation. We can perform it. So one is the throughput-based sizing. So means before you sizing, how many ways we can calculate it. So based upon the users, we can calculate it. Based upon the throughput-based, we can calculate it. So these two ways we can calculate the sizing here, right? So if you click on the any one of the button, so you can see here. So calculation, choose the sizing type, either the greenfield sizing or brownfield sizing. Greenfield means you want to new SAP application from the scratch, then quick user apply. So if you have already existing system is running on that one, enough to migrate to HANA, please perform the brownfield sizing, right? With greenfield sizing and a brownfield sizing. So suppose it is a new field, then we can just open the URL. So there, so we can just plan the all these options. We can plan it here. The sizing option we can plan it here. standard solutions, standard BW for HANA, S4 HANA, ECC. So all these things we can get the information from here, right? There is a web-based tool. We have to go and provide the parameters here. How many users are there for yours? How many users are there? So based on that, how many users are there? Just click on the click on the unavailable sizing. Just click on this one. Then it will open the URL. You need to use the S user ID and the password. You have to use it, right? S user ID and the password. You have to use it. Then you will get the things ready here. You will get the things. You will get the. It will ask you to provide the. You have to provide the inputs here. Then it will give the response here. It will give the provide the inputs here. It will give the response here. So this is the way it will give the how much CPU, everything it will come to here, right? If it is the HANA based cloud fixer or non-HANA, you can get the here. So we have to use the fixer web based tool to calculate the RAM size here. Otherwise, so t-shirt sizing method, t-shirt sizing method. So t-shirt sizing method is like here. So t-shirt sizing, which means we can use the normal rough estimations here. Rough estimation. Normally, for small companies, how much is required here, and medium-sized companies, how much is required here. Then large companies, how much is required here. Then extra large companies, how much CPU is required here. There is a rough estimation. Small companies, you need minimum 128 GB RAM is required here, right? So, and the medium-sized companies and 256 GB RAM is required here. The large companies here, you have 512 GB RAM is required here. Then extra large companies, you have minimum 1 terabyte is required here. So minimum, these are the minimum requirement. We want to go high level, you can go for the high level. The quick sizer also will give the minimum this much of RAM is required for your business. Like that, it will give the information. Based on that, you can estimate the RAM size here, right? Otherwise, RAM size you will get from the your seniors. Seniors will give you this much of RAM. They will insert it. Anyhow, you are not going to install the hardwares and everything, right? Hardware team is there. They will take care of all these things here. But to understand what is the priority we are giving for these things we are discussing now, right? So the next one, suppose this way, this many ways we can calculate, we can get the RAM size here. Either fresh installation, you can go for quick sizer tool, or brownfield installation also we can use the quick sizer tool, or in the existing system you can run the one report in SA38. So you have already system in SAP level, So if you execute the one report, you will get the if you execute the one report, you will get the how much RAM you required, that you will get it out from the SAP. How much RAM you required, that you will get from the SAP, right? How much RAM you required, that you will get from the SAP systems here, right? So that many things we can perform it here. Here I see why these many systems are created here. This is the shadow instance. This is the normal SAP system. This is the our SAP system. Why one more application server is installed? Already system is very slow. You guys are keep on installing. It's not required, right? Many application servers. You don't have much business also. But shadow created. Anyone observed here? You see, shadow is created here. In the shadow system is created, same as like your original system. Shadow system is created. Then shadow system is getting upgraded here. See here, shadow system is updated. I think it's the upgrade is running. I think the upgrade which you kept it, that upgrade is running. I guess here, right? Here three systems are running here, right? So this many waves, so we can calculate the sizing. Coming to our part, we can measure our RAM, how much RAM we required here. So otherwise, we can use the HANA based same quick sizer tool. So HANA based quick sizer tool, get the RAM size here. So this one you can calculate the S4 and HANA, other things, and also HANA based quick sizer tool. So all these things you can get the sizing report from the how much. This only thing is you require the how much memory, how much RAM, CPUs you have to use it. All the information you will get from the SAP. All the information you will get from the so SAP size quick sizer tool here. So that is the RAM. Once you got the RAM size, based on that you will get the CPUs also. CPUs also. So in the CPUs, which is the physical CPUs on premises you are installing here. So one physical CPU here, one P CPU is equal here 14 to 16 GB of 14 GB of RAM memory. Suppose like 14 GB of RAM memory, it will handle it. 14 GB of RAM memory, it will handle it. One physical CPU will handle the 14 GB of RAM memory, it will handle it here. Suppose if you are using, so if you are using 128 GB RAM, then 128 GB by 14, if how much it will come, then that many CPUs you required here. That many CPUs you required here for the so for HANA. So you know, suppose if your RAM size is the 128 GB, then here how many CPUs we have to use it here? How many CPUs we have to use it here? So these many CPUs we have to use it here for the databases here. Which is the 128 GB, then 128 GB by 14. How many CPUs we have to use it? 9 CPUs. Suppose here the was the 1 terabyte, then 1 TB by so 14 GB. How many CPUs will come? That many CPUs we have to use it here, right? So equals to why? Because one CPU will handle the 14 to 16 GB of main memory, RAM memory. So if you have two CPUs, 28 GB, three CPUs, so then 42 GB, right? So like that here, so if the how much RAM you have, this one by 14, then how many CPUs you required? This one. So this many 9 CPUs you required for the HANA database, right? And also, once you get the CPU's requirement, you got it, then we have to get the file system requirement, right? How many file systems you required, and also what is the space recommendations from them? How many file systems and space requirements from them? It's a very important CPU calculations and RAM calculations. So and also certified hardware vendors. Oh yes, why? Because these all we required to install the HANA database. This all we should carefully plan it here. We should carefully plan and install the database here. Install the database here. On top of the once the hardware everything is done, we have to install it. Why? Because HANA storing the data in memory. In memory. So data RAM lo store it's storing the data in the RAM. So it's a very important to calculate to take each and every parameters to to do the sizing of the HANA database. So OS, one certified OS hardware vendors, RAM, either the greenfield or brownfield or fixed sizer tool or T-shirt sizing methods, we have to use it. So CPU calculations. If you take less CPUs, then you may get the CPUs issues and it will go hung status. So that is the reason you have to carefully plan the all these things. You have to carefully plan it. All these things you have to carefully plan. All these things you have to carefully plan it here. So okay, you have to plan the carefully all these things. You have to carefully plan these activities and everything here, right? So and also file systems and space recommendations. File systems. So file systems means what are the file systems you required here, right? Here the SAP HANA related, there are the 5 types of file systems you required here. One is the USR SAP root. First one is the root, right? Then second one is the USR SAP. Second one is the third one is the slash and the data. Then fourth one is the slash and the log. The fifth one is the slash and the shared. Slash and the shared here. So these many file systems are required for the these many file systems are required for HANA database. These many file systems are required for the HANA database. So especially for the HANA, these are the 5 types of file systems you required. This is one of the most frequently interview asked questions. How many file systems you require for the HANA database? 5 types of file systems here. So why? Because here these should be all should be in the everything will be created under the root only. but it should have the separate mount points. Everything should be the separate mount points. Otherwise, you may face the IO issues, input output issues. You may face it. Input output issues. You may face it. Right. So that is the reason here we should be carefully plan our things here. So root is the 10 GB is required for the root, minimum 10 GB. This is for the 50 GB is required for here. So for the data, 3 into RAM size is required here. And also log folder off by 2 of your RAM size is required here. Means 0.5 into RAM size here. Or maximum we can take it here. The max we can take it here. 512 GB is required for HANA database. 512 GB is required for the HANA database. So slash and shared here 1 terabyte, 1 into RAM size or 1 into RAM size or 1 TB is required for the HANA database. 1 TB is required for the HANA database. These are the calculations. We have to take it carefully. We have to plan these calculations. These are the, it's not my own recommendations. It's like SAP recommendations to have this one. So this is a minimum should be 10 GB. So these are the space and file systems are required for the HANA hardware recommendations. These are the very much are required here, right? Space and space. These many are required here. Otherwise, what happens whenever any issues, then again, if you go to the SAP, then they will tell you like, did you follow the my recommendations? You have to follow the recommendations for the space and the RAM, how much file systems are required here. RAM, we got it. CPUs, we got it. These are the file systems, OS level file systems. So HANA, Linux level, we will call it as the file systems. That too, in the Windows level, we have the drive slide, C drive, D drive, E drive, something like that. So in the here, we will call it as the drives here. We will call it as the drives. C drive, D drive, E drive, something like that. We will call it as the drives here. So that drives here. So that, so here, these drives, here, everything we put into the C drive only. So that's why sometimes we may face the hardware issues, so slowness issues. Why? Because everything we put kept into the C drive, so we are using that one. So, but here you can see, so everything is the, so everything for the HANA database, everything we have to the separate mount points here under the root only, but separately we have to create the mount points here. Separate mount points we required here. Mount points means separate file systems are required for this one, right? So this Linux level, right? That's why the term will change it to the, so separate mount points, separate file systems are required. With the Windows, separate disks are required. We will call it as, this is the Linux. Why? Because HANA can be installed only on the Linux based operating systems. So this is the one. So USRSP 50 GB, data 3 into RAM size. The RAM size is the 1 terabyte, then 3 into 1. So 3 terabyte is required here. The log size is the 0 part, which means 1 terabyte means 512 GB RAM size is required here maximum. Shared 1 into RAM size, 1 terabyte. So here 2 terabyte, so 2 terabyte is required. Minimum is 1 is required here. Okay. So this is the this is the file system requirement. These 5 file systems, they may ask you hundreds of questions. They may ask you these 5 file systems. They may ask you hundreds of questions here. How much CPUs you required, RAM size, how can you estimate it? So what are the file systems you required, and what are the space recommendations to install the HANA database? And also here, apart from that, this OS Linux file system, HANA file system. So Linux level, we required the root slash temp, right? And slash var and slash log. So, and slash swap. So these are the additional file systems you required HANA. So sorry, operating system. These are the voice level file systems, separate mount points. Temp, var, log, swap. These are the required to store the voice level related log files. These are the HANA related file systems. These are the OS related log files and everything, right? And whenever you have to install any OS, you will get the C drive, program files, Windows, something like that in Windows level, Linux level. So by default, you will get all these file systems. So this all should be required here. These file systems are should be required here. So that is the reason we have to carefully plan all these things and everything here, right? So, and also network. So how much network is required here? What is the network bandwidth here? So here SAP is saying that 1 gigabyte, 1 Gbps where 1 gigabytes per second. So minimum also fine, but it will be shown as, so SAP recommended to use the 1 gigabyte per second. You have to use the this much of network. You have to use it here, right? So this is the network restrictions. We have to use it here. So OS flavor, CPU, memory. So what CPUs we have to use it. So how many CPU, so like how many CPUs we have to use it. So what are the file systems? So all these file systems and everything comes under, all these file systems and everything comes under here. All these file systems and everything comes under the, so yeah, 1 minute guys, next 1 minute. Yeah. So sorry guys. So these are the OS level file systems we required, operating system level OS level file systems we required. So root, USRSCP, data, log, shared, and OS related these file systems, and these many CPUs are required, and RAM, this much of RAM we required, and certified hardware vendors and OS should be required here. Sir, why we are planning for HANA this much of careful here. So for planning the, so for anything, we have not taken care of the all those things, right? We are simply discussed and we went out. But why we are discussing more for HANA only? So what is the reason for that one? What is the reason for discussing the here? What is the reason for, so for this HANA database here? So OS and certified hardware vendors. So RAM, CPU. So this much of carefully why we planned for HANA database here. So why we have planned here. So here, so this is the very important. HANA database, DB is the very important, right? The most is the DB is the very important. If DB is the alive, if the DB is alive, then definitely applications will throw the data to database level. It will store the data. So if you plan database carefully, why? Because multiple applications, multiple things will pull the data from the database level and it will give the results to the users, right? So that is the reason database is very important here. So that's the reason we are carefully planned our CPU. Why? Because it's a very important. Your OS also should be certified hardware vendors, certified vendors. And also HANA is the that much of speed. And also one more advantage, on fly, we can make the business decisions for the HANA. Why? Because data, so other database will not give that much of speed, but HANA will give the that much of speed. On fly, we can make the business decisions, so that on fly we can make the business decisions, so that it's very speed actually. So you will get to know on fly why I mentioned this means, while going to the upcoming classes, I will explain you there one way, one place. Immediately you can get the business data and the retrieval, you can plan it from the here systems. So that is the reason on fly we can make the business decisions and everything, we can plan it here. So that is the thing of the, so HANA database. In the HANA, what are the hardware requirements and what is HANA? That is what we discussed in the today's. Okay, I'm pausing here. So if anyone wants to any question, just think, let me know. So tomorrow, what we can do,